What's good, football fans? Back at you once again with another video. And today I wanted to come on and talk about some of these pre-draft visits that Washington's been having with these players coming before the draft. You may or may not have heard about these top 30 visits or whatever the case may be. First of all, let me give a shout out to my friends over at Hogs Haven. Scott Jennings and Ken Joannison have put in a lot of groundwork on this article right here I'm about to show you. But if you just take a look at this thing, first of all, before I get into what I'm here to do, and they give a breakdown of the draft picks the team has, the top 30 visits the team has gone through and is still going through, and of course, all of the pro day meetings and different meetings at the Senior Bowl, the Aloha Bowl, Hula Bowl, whatever the case may be there, Tropical Bowl, all kinds of meetings. They literally have a documented history of all of the players that the team has met with during this entire process, which is unbelievably extensive, and you might actually be surprised at the sheer number of prospects that the team has actually met with. I mean, this list goes on for days. This list even goes one further and gives you pro days attended, football games attended by the scouts. I mean, it's in depth. You definitely need to go check this article out to get a feel and definitely see all the source material and everything that's behind it. And of course, if you're not following these guys on social media, or if you're not part of the community over there, you definitely need to check them out. But today I'm going to focus in on these top 30 visits, and I have a video coming in the future about the offensive line prospects. Stay tuned for that, but because of that, I'm not going to go into depth about each offensive lineman that's actually featured in these top 30 visits. Also, I've already, got a video on the channel about Jaden Daniels and one about Drake May. I'm going to link those in the upper right-hand corner right here, one after the other. If you haven't had a chance yet, go watch those videos. I pulled a whole lot of film out, took a look at it, gave a couple opinions, but everybody else on this top 30 visit, I'm going to take a quick look at here, kind of go over some scout notes. For those of you that aren't familiar with some of these videos that I do, I like to use The Beast, which is like a draft Bible by a guy that writes for The Athletic, Dane Brugler, which is actually, in my opinion, the best piece of content on the internet if you're looking for information about the draft. The way to get your hands on that is you just simply go over and subscribe to The Athletic. Anytime you hear me reference looking at a scouting report, that's the one I'm looking at. And I'm gonna start with Austin Booker, edge rusher from Kansas. And his scouting report summary says, a sub-package player at Kansas, Booker lined up wide of the offensive tackle in 2- and 3-point stances, and defensive coordinator Brian Borland's versatile front. After he saw only 23 defensive snaps in his first 2 seasons at Minnesota, Booker transferred to Lawrence for the 2023 season and led the team in sacks, tackles for loss, and forced fumbles, despite coming off the bench and averaging only 40 snaps per game. Although he is still figuring out how and when to access his bag of tricks, Booker instinctively uses his rangy frame to create various leverage points and surprise blockers with his forceful hands. He is lean in his lower half, but he plays well versus the run to stack, stay balanced through contact, and track the football. Overall, Booker is lacking in body mass and overall experience, just 505 career college snaps, but he is an ascending player with the ability to maximize his athletic traits and body length force with proper biomechanics. With his tools and instincts, he projects as a rotational player in year 1 with the potential to become an impact starter. The grade he was given was a 3rd round grade, approximately around the 78 overall mark. Rod Gaddison, a cornerback from Western Carolina, is actually not listed in the Beast. The next player is Cam Hart, a cornerback from Notre Dame. And his scouting report summary says, a 3-year starter at Notre Dame, Hart was an outside cornerback in head coach Marcus Freeman's man-heavy defensive scheme. After transitioning from receiver to corner during his redshirt year, Hart showed steady improvement each season and played his best as a senior. He is a long-limbed, toolsy athlete, which helps him cover up routes, but his footwork needs to be cleaned up. He also gets sticky when forced to gear down, which allows separation at the break point versus quick receivers. He needs to put himself in better position to make more plays on the football. Overall, Hart's traits are more intriguing than his tape, but his body length and linear twitch are an attractive combination that helps him match up with both size and speed. His versatility as gunner and jammer on punt coverages will boost his NFL chances. They give him a 4th or 5th round grade. Next up is Elijah Jones, cornerback from Boston College. And his report summary says, a 4-year starter at Boston College, Jones was primarily an outside cornerback and former head coach Jeff Hafley's balanced man scheme. Despite missing the final 4 games as a super senior, he still tied for the ACC lead with 5 interceptions and accounted for a combined 28 passes defended over his final 20 games in college. Jones is an athletic, long corner who likes to crowd airspace. Though he looks to get physical, he tends to be overzealous in coverage to compensate for his lack of size, which leads to mistakes. Overall, Jones's undisciplined tendencies and lack of play strength are concerns, but he has the man-to-man athletic tools that will interest press-heavy teams. They give him a 5th-round grade. Next on the list is Javante Jean-Baptiste, an edge rusher from Notre Dame. His report summary says, a 1-year starter at Notre Dame, Jean-Baptiste was an edge rusher and Coach Marcus Freeman's 4-man front. A solid role player at Ohio State, he was blocked on the depth chart in Columbus and transferred to South Bend, where he put together a strong final season, leading the Irish in both tackles for loss and sacks. As a pass rusher, Jean-Baptiste has upfield quickness and stays balanced mid-rush, although his rigidity and lack of mass show when his first move is stymied. He plays with terrific effort in the run game, but he can be out-leveraged at the point of attack. Overall, Jean-Baptiste lacks dynamic traits in his play, but he battles and has enough tools that warrant further development. He is worth bringing to camp and possibly adding to the practice squad. They gave him a 7th-round grade. Next on the list is Marshon Kneeland, an edge rusher from Western Michigan, and his report summary says, a 3-year starter, Kneeland was an edge rusher and defensive coordinator Lou Esposito's 4-man attack. Lowly recruited, he improved each season in college and had arguably the best single tape of any pass rusher in 2023 with what he did against Eastern Michigan. When shopping for pass rushers, give me the guys who hate to be blocked. Kneeland certainly qualifies, as he uses his long arms and bully hands to get loose. Though he lacks the rush savvy that leads to high-end production, he is explosive in his movements with his power to push the pocket or plant ball carriers. Overall, Kneeland is still taking classes in the art of pass rush, but he is charged up into contact and displays twitch throughout his frame, which allows him to defeat blockers in different ways. He projects as a starting base end whose best football is yet to come, and he's graded out in the 1st and 2nd round around number 32 overall. Next on the list is Tyrese Knight, a linebacker from UTEP, and his report summary says, a 3-year starter at UTEP, Knight moved inside to Mike linebacker in 2023 and defensive coordinator Bradley Dale Pravada's 4-2-5 base scheme. After 2 years at the junior college level, he was a tackling machine over his 4 seasons in El Paso and finished number 1 in the FBS in solo tackles and number 4 in total tackles per game as a senior in 2023. For a player with average speed, Knight makes a lot of tackles both inside and outside the numbers because of his reaction quickness and closing bursts and motor. Trusting his eyes, he triggers without wasting steps and attacks with purpose. But his lack of functional take-on skills will be tougher to mask versus NFL talent. Overall, Knight has some coverage limitations, but he is a rabid dog against the run with the instincts and play personality that directly lead to production. He has rosterable talent at the next level and is looking to become UTEP's first defensive draft pick since 2008 when Quentin Demps was taken. They have him at a 5th or 6th round grade. The next guy on the list is quarterback Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. In his report summary says a 2-year starter at Washington, Penix was a productive lefty passer and offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb's shotgun spread scheme. After 4 season-ending injuries in his 4 years at Indiana, he turned himself into a legitimate NFL prospect with the Huskies, including a memorable 2023 season. He led the FBS in passing yards per game, finished runner-up for the Heisman, led Washington to the national championship game. A super aggressive triggerman, Penix can drive the football with quick game or attack one-on-one matchups down the field. Not only did he throw to NFL caliber receivers at Washington, but he also benefited from an above-average offensive line, and his effectiveness plummeted when he felt the walls closing in. Overall, Penix is inconsistent in several areas: mechanics, anticipation, pressure reaction, but his arm confidence and willingness to attack every square inch of the field can be a productive formula in the right situation. His mental toughness will be a strong selling point in NFL draft rooms. He has him listed with a second or third 52nd overall grade. Next on the list is Chop Robinson, an edge rusher from Penn State. And his report summary says, a one-year starter at Penn State, Robinson was a wide-aligned pass rusher in former defensive coordinator Manny Diaz's scheme, standing up and rushing with his hand on the ground. After one season at Maryland, he transferred to Penn State, partly because he wanted to remain a pass rusher instead of moving to linebacker, and was one of the most disruptive players in the country. While some pass rushers require a runway to build up speed, Robinson accelerates 0 to 60 in a blink, creating instant suddenness from his spot to shoot gaps or win races to the corner. He shows natural rush instincts and uses a variety of swats, swipes, and dips to evade blocks, although his counters need further development. He is a tougher run defender than expected, but he is slightly undersized and could use additional bulk to better match up with NFL blockers. Overall, Robinson needs to continue developing to prove he isn't a one-trick pony, but his first step explosiveness and aggressive hands give him the potential to be the most dynamic pass rusher in this class. He is ideally suited as a wide 9 defender who can be schemed across the front, and they give him a first to second round grade, 26th overall. The next guy on the list is Jatavian Sanders, tight end from Texas. And his report summary says, a 2-year starter at Texas, Sanders was a multi-dimensional tight end in Scarsezian's spread RPO offense. He needed only 2 seasons to become the Longhorns' all-time leader among tight ends and catches, and his 68.9% first down touchdown rate in 2023 is the best among tight ends in this draft class. A true 3-level receiving threat, Sanders has the athletic talent of a wide receiver and boxes out downfield to command the catch point. Though he is a functional on-the-move blocker because of his range and pop, he needs to put more of a premium on leverage and positioning for him to survive as an NFL blocker. Overall, Sanders needs to become more available in his routes and improve his reliability as a blocker, but he is a smooth. Next on the list here, I'm going to do Jared Wiley. He's a tight end from TCU, and his report summary says, a 2-year starter at TCU, Wiley was a wide tight end and offensive coordinator Kendall Briles' scheme, lining up mostly in line and detached. Briles' offense utilized the tight end position more than Garrett Riley's did in 2022, and the result was it must be more efficient. Overall, Wiley is more of a post-up target than a tight end who will consistently create space for himself. But he is a good-sized athlete with blocking toughness and ball skills. He projects as a rotational wide tight end who could gradually work his way to the top spot of the depth chart. They have him listed as a 3rd round, around 89th overall grade. Next up, they have Trevon Wallace, a linebacker from Kentucky. And yes, I said that right, another linebacker from Kentucky. And his summary report says that he was a 2-year starter at Kentucky. Wallace played will linebacker and defensive coordinator Brad White's 4-2-5 base scheme. The top-ranked recruit in the Wildcats 2021 class, he made steady strides each of his last 3 seasons and ranked top 10 in the SEC with 6.7 tackles per game in 2023. A balanced athlete in space, Wallace has the speed to pursue plays all over the field and is one of the best linebackers in this class at mirroring backs to the sideline when plays flow wide. Though not super instinctive versus the run or pass, he follows basic keys to the spot and has the athletic range to stay on the field on 3rd down. Overall, Wallace has an attractive collection of traits for today's NFL. However, the parts are better than the whole at this point, and pro coaching will need to get him across the finish line. With more seasoning, he has talent to compete for starting reps. They have him in the 3rd round, 86th overall grade here. And last but not least, J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. His report summary states that he was a 2-year starter at Michigan. McCarthy was the point guard of former head coach Jim Harbaugh's pro-style spread offense that relied on a power run attack and shifts and motions to create favorable matchups in the pass game. After compiling a 36-2 record in high school with a state title, he led the Wolverines to a 27-1 record as a starter, including the 2023 national championship. Though McCarthy needs to add more bulk to his frame, he is a good-sized athlete who can operate from the pocket with balance, negotiate pressure, and create plays with his mobility when needed. He is a loose passer, quick to process what the defense gives him, and delivers with velocity and accuracy from various platforms. However, his decision making is still developing, and he must prove he can get further into his progressions. NFL teams describe him as a winner and love the way he is wired. Harbaugh calls him the Iceman for the way he stays cool under pressure. Overall, McCarthy's evaluation feels incomplete, which creates even more projection than normal, but his passing skills, pocket athleticism, and mental makeup are all ascending and create optimism for his NFL future. Although bumps along the way should be expected, he has the package of tools to become an NFL starter early in his career. They have him graded out at a first to second number 21 overall grade. Now, as I mentioned, I'll be doing an offensive line video in the coming days, but some players that I didn't mention that are on the list here: Kuron Amagaji from Yale, who I think is highly underrated. I'm going to talk a lot about him. Jordan Morgan from Arizona, who actually some people have transitioning to guard in the NFL. Roger Rosengarten, an offensive tackle from Washington, and Caden Wallace, a tackle from Penn State, a guy who I think is actually highly underrated. And as I already said, I'll be talking about all those guys in my offensive line video that I should have out hopefully by the end of this weekend. Just me personally, I never put an entire whole lot into these pre-draft visits, although it is good to see who they're talking with and who they're interested in. It definitely gives you a sense of direction of what the team is looking at. Now, obviously, they're not in control of how any of the picks will play out, but picking higher in the draft gives them a little bit more of a determining factor than if they were picking, let's say, 16th, which seemed like that was where Ron Rivera always ended up, somewhere between 10 and 17, which always leaves you in the middle of the pack. And leading into a draft, you never really know the way the team is going to head in that kind of situation. Of course, now we always have, the wild card of will they trade back? Some might even go as far as to say that they may trade back up into the first round as well to maybe chase, a big name at offensive tackle. Or who knows how this thing will work out. You never know until it all plays out. That said, let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments. Y'all take it easy. Peace.